So in our topic, the paper is Western political thought. Today topic is about the Aristotle. So Aristotle ideas we are going to discuss today. So I'm audible. Please confirm once.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So Aristotle basically he was not from Athenian by birth. So he was born in the Statica country. So he is the student of the Plato. So the difference between the Plato and Aristotle in philosophical science. So Plato was the father of political philosophy, and the Aristotle father of political science, as we know. So the former philosopher is the later scientist former follows the deductive methodology. So Aristotle, like Plato, wrote voluminously. I mean, he wrote a number of books. So we know Aristotle has written the many subjects. So he admired, claimed the for title of the master of that know. So for about thousands of years ago, so Aristotle on logic, Aristotle on mechanics. So he wrote on physics also. He wrote on psychology. So he wrote a number of sub areas also. So in our class today, we are going to discuss about the Aristotle theory of the state basically, and the classification of government. These are major two areas we are going to discuss today. So before going to the main topic, we'll discuss about his works and little bit introductions. So Aristotle have written, 150 philosophical treatises about that, 30 have survived touch on the enormous range of philosophical problems from biology, physics, to morals, aesthetic, to the politicals. So, however, the thoughts to be intellectual notes instead of complete, so polished treatise. So, and if you may not be is but members of the school. So Aristotle works can be classified under the three headings mainly. So dialogues and other works of the popular characters, the collection of facts and materials from the scientific treatment. So and the third one is the systematic work. So among his writings of popular nature, the only one which we process in the interesting track on the quality of things. So the works on the second group include the 200 titles is there. So most in fragments. The systematic treatise of the third group are marked by the plainness of style. So Aristotle political theory is mainly focused on founds on the politics. His main theories founds in the politics. Also there are references of his political thoughts on Nicomachean ethics. So will so in work his methodology was different from the Plato. So Aristotle has scientific method of study used. So at the same time, historical, comparative, and observational methods also he used in his works. So we'll go to the theory of state, which is in our major area for our paper. So according to the Aristotle, state is a community of persons. Every community has certain purpose, and that purpose is good only. So as a community, the state has a purpose, and the purpose also good according to it. So, but the state is not an ordinary community. It is the highest of all communities, and naturally, it is purpose is shall be the highest or supreme. So it is thus evident that like all associations, that state is association. So, but its purpose is different from the other associations. So again, it is not an ordinary association. So it enjoys the highest rank of or position, highest rank or highest position in the society or the social structure. So as a typical biologist, Aristotle has and political scientist Aristotle has analyzed the nature of state by dividing into the several components. So he has said that we are accumulated to analyze other composite things till they can be subdivided now further. So let us in the same way examine the state and its component parts. The application of natural method reveals that the state is a natural or existed by nature according to the Aristotle. So in the analysis of the natural method, we find the application of physics and nomos. So physics implies the growth, nature, and fundamental reality. So the meaning of nomos is man-made. So convention and custom. So Aristotle says that the state is characterized by the natural growth. So it's not created by anyone. So, but during the different stages of process, man-made some laws and conventions are intervened. So the Greek word koinonia means the both community and association. So also according to the sociologist, there is a subtle difference between the community and associations. Shall use the words here in the same sense and also interchangeably. It is true that man is by nature is a self-interest seeking animal, man. So, and it does not hesitate to oppose the fulfillment of others' interest, others' benefits. So the law, justice, institutions, and conventions which are made by the man may be evil. So, but Aristotle does not accept that. So, his opinion on that laws or conventions are basically good, and man has made them to serve their beneficial objectives only. So, the state has developed nature finally according to him. So, it must not be treated as a result on the contract or human contrivance. So many have made a laws, institutions, convention for their own benefits, own interest. And this have facilitated and enriched the functioning of the state only. So if the state is the natural development, there is a definitely several stages. So what are the stages we'll discuss? So Aristotle begins his the argument by saying that first stage of state is the household, family. Household means family. So the union between the male and female constitute the basis of the family. So again, the union between the male and the female is the essential for the reproduction. Since each is the powerless without the each other, so this is not a matter of choice, but the result of desire implanted by nature. So this desire is to be found in all animals. So family include other components such as a slave, ox, and flock. So without these components, family cannot maintain its own physical existence. So according to the Aristotle, this association of persons established according to the law of nature and continuing day after day is the household, means family. So the family is the simplest form of association. So meets the simplest necessities. But man necessities are various and naturally it is beyond the capacity of the family to meet those demands. Several several families have formed a village to fulfill their greatest demands and the necessities. In general, generally comes into being through the process of nature. So the village also is the higher than the family village. So cannot cope with the growing demand of its members. So when several villages are conglomerated, that gave rise to the police or state. So the final association formed of several villages is that city or I mean state. So for all particular purpose, the process is now completed. So self-sufficiency has been reached. So and so while it started as a means of securing life itself, so it is a now position to secure the good life. So Aristotle observes that besides securing life itself, it has also great purpose. For example, to secure the good life of the men. So elsewhere, he has said that the common interest is a factor in bringing men together. Since the interest of all contributes to the good life of each, so the good life is needed the chief end of the state. So both corporately and individually. So for according to the Aristotle, the nature of everything is not it's the first, but it's the final condition. The process of growth towards it is also described as a nature. So the city state is the perfectly natural form of association. So as the earlier association form of which it sprang were natural. So this association is the end of those others. So and it's a nature is itself an end. State is a natural not simply because it is the final stage of historical evolution. So, but because it is alone meets the all needs of the man. So it is the alone self-sufficient. So neither households nor village is self-sufficient. So they could be meet only part of the man's necessities. So in his politics, we find two types of self-sufficiency. Self-sufficient in the necessities of necessity of day-to-day life, and self-sufficient in the need for the good life of man. So Aristotle ideas of the fulfillment of necessity of life is not to be detached from the conception of the attainment of ethical values. So we have already noted that according to the Aristotle, for the sake of good life, the exercise of both ethical and the intellectual virtues is very much essential, and the farmer requires the easy availability of a sufficient amount of external goods. So only the state with the adequate size and the sufficient population can be ensured the smooth supply of external goods. So in Aristotle views, man seek to satisfy his physical or material demands to attain a good life. So any institutions or any community other than police is insufficient. So therefore, the membership of police is essential for a man. So according to man is a by nature a political animal. So it is now clear that the state is a natural form of organization, and by nature man has become the member of the state by nature only. So and therefore both state and individual as its members are natural. So Aristotle does not stop here, continuing his logic as said that man is by nature a political animal. So the term political animal means an animal that lives in the polis or state. So nature has inspired and encouraged man to be part of the state only, to part of the state. So Aristotle believed that it was not possible for men to live outside of the state, according to the Aristotle. So it is the state that fulfill all his requirements. So if out of it, like no man can get the membership of the policeman states. So he will be come down to the level of subman. So on the other hand, if anybody refuse to live in the state, he may be regarded as the superman, according to the Aristotle. So it is the nature of man to live in a state. So Aristotle says that nature does nothing without purpose. So and for the purpose of making man a political animal, so she has endowed him alone among the animals. So with the power of reason, speech, and the other good qualities. So the implication of the term political animal is man is reasonable, and with the power of reason, it can be distinguished between the good and the bad. So right and the wrong, just and the injustice. Reasonability is the basis, according to the Aristotle. So of sharing of common view in the matters of that makes household or a city. So the meaning of the term as a member of police or state is the abundantly found in different ethical or political writings of the Aristotle. So Aristotle also regard shows interest in the life sciences and extensively studied them. So so in his geological work, he also used the term political animal. Aristotle has said the gregariousness is to be the found in the man and the other animal, both man and the other animal. So, but the fundamental difference is man possesses the consciousness and the reasonability, while other animals do not have these features, these qualities. So, politically of man enables him to be him to form an organization and also purpose of a good life. So Aristotle's analyze the state and individuals as its member is based on the startology. So this is possible due to the fact that Aristotle and the sufficient knowledge on various branches of science. So he was a man of great reason. So state is a organic character of the state. So he may glance over the Aristotle theory Aristotle theory of state drives, importance point that the so organic in a nature. So which means that the state is the component whole. So he has made distinction between the aggregated and the whole. So the former means that different parts of the thing are uh, just opposed together to make the unity. So by their juxtaposition, the part make unity. So, but the whole means different thing. The state is a whole. The state has several parts, but when they are put together, the unity will mean a different matter. The state is not an aggregator of individual, so its members are not atomized individual related to another, to one and another only. So, by the fact that they inhabited by the same territory, in the same territory, so when individuals form a whole, they share the joint activity and at the same time lose the separateness. So if the parts are separated from the whole, they will be useless. So this is the organic theory of the state. So according to the Aristotle, um, state has the priority over the household and over any individual. So for the whole must be prior to the parts of separate parts. So separate a hand or the foot from the whole body, and they will be no longer beyond. So an individual is not fully self-sufficient after a separation. So to put in other words, only membership of state makes himself a sufficient and helps him the fulfill his the ambition and also to be a moral and virtuous. So it's about the importance of the state. So the morality and virtuousness are the characteristics of man only. So when man reach the stages of fulfillment, he automatically becomes a members of police and separation between uh, man and police will be degenerate the form of the level of the peace. So if man is the integral part of the state, uh, can it be said that he is completely blended with it? No, Aristotle answers can be categorical number. So he never thinks of the mixture. Although man is a part of a whole, so will stand in the same relationship to the whole as other part. So it implies that individual will be able to keep his separate identity intact. So he according to Aristotle, state is the compound in which original parts are still discernible. So in the state, the individuals will be perform different functions. So, but these functions are the complementary. So that is each person is dependent upon the other. So by advocating that the membership of the state does not obliterate the separate identity of the man and the group. So Aristotle has acknowledged the plurality of the parts composing the state. Right. So in this point, he criticized Plato, who advocate a communism to do away with all sorts of differences. So Aristotle does not think that the obliterating the differences of the state will be consent and the complete whole. So individual and according to individual and the state. So the city or state has priority over the household or any individual among us. So this is the observation of Aristotle encouraged the critics to frame the change that is deliberately subordinate the individual to the all power wishes of the state, right? So although he acknowledged the separate existence of the individual, so he did not think that the individual would not have separate ideal or moral or goodness from those of the those of the state. So the individual, according to the Aristotle, so the individual can achieve these qualities only through the membership of and subordination to the state only. So it cannot have rights and liberties apart from the state, against the state. So he will have rights and within the state only. So the individuals, although not merged with the state, so is completely dependent upon the state for the pursuit of I mean, his moral and ethical objectives. So Aristotle holds that the without membership of this state, the lofty ideals of individual will be remain unrealized. So both but the individual's dependence upon the subordination to the state is an issue of great controversy. So now let us analyze the matter of the different angles. So if the objective of the state is to help the individual to pursue his own personal interest and objectives, so then the state is subordinate to the individual. So for example, if the individual thinks that his personal protection must get priority and it is the duty of the state to help him, so then the opinion of individual will get priority over the state only. So no question of compromise can arise in respect of personal protection, personal benefit. So, but if the purpose of individual is to help the police in achieving the common good, so then the opinion of the state will always dominate, and the individual must be submit to the state. So attainment of common good may or may not include the private benefit also. So whatever may be the case, the individual interest cannot be claimed as a separate treatment. So he must sacrifice himself for the sake of the common good embodied in the state, within the state. So the state imagined by the Aristotle is the highest manifestation of morality, ideal, ethics, and the values, and all these are beyond all sorts of the fragmentation. So since the individual is the rational and his interest does not exhaust it in the performing certain political activities, so he wants to attain the above mentioned values and ideas, and only the membership of the state can help him. So Aristotle is nurtured in the Greek philosophy, which always think of the community as a whole. So like all ancient Greek philosophers, he has never thought activity about the rights and the obligation of man. So to all Greek philosophers, the attainment of the common good was the sole purpose of any police. So the view of the individual cannot get a precedence over the state police. So in this respect, we may say that Aristotle subordinates individuals to the state. So if we mean that in the balancing the claim of individuals and the state, he favor the state more and the individual less. So although this was the view of Greek philosophers, the same thing is to be found in the democratic institutions of in modern times. So the democratic institutions of uh, modernism, which is individual, could be, banished without being convicted of any formal charge. Provides a good example of general Greek view, the legitimate power of the group over the individual. So from the conception, the individual is subordinate to the state. So another aspect of Aristotle theory of state is derived. So is state is a totalitarian or authoritarian. So the very simple meaning of totalitarian is that state assume the full responsibility of all. So round development of individual. So it does not recognize the initiative to be adopted by the individual, considering his the own. advantage and disadvantages. So, and also the role of various social and political institutions in molding the character of the individual. So, determination of goals and the methods of their attainment will also be decided by the state. So, in a words, in the authoritarian view, the state is all powerful. So, critics have called Aristotle's theory of state simply totality. Why? So, modicum of, more of democratic values suggests that individual should have full freedom to pursue his goals independently. So, as a member of different social organization, he can make he can take their help. So at the best he can expect, accept that the supreme organization that the state can be under the index, which can stand on his own, his way to the attainment of success. So but under no circumstances the state will assume the whole responsibility. So if we look at the Aristotle theory of state, we shall find there is hardly any scope of individual to think in his own way and the something independently. So the state, according to the Aristotle, is all embracing, and it is leaves no room for the individual's freedom, according to the Aristotle. So the morality of the state and the individual do not stand apart. So also ethics and idealism. So since the state is the highest association, so it is that quite capable of shouldering the responsibility of expounding and enriching the moral and ideal values. So which of the individual aspires. So individual must be subordinate to the state, not the reverse. So the reverse is accepted, then the authority of the state as the supreme organization will be thrown in the air. So and the none of existence of all state will be implied on the implement of the goals. So again, this is unacceptable. Hence, the subordination of the individual to the state is fight and accompanied. 1 minute. So this type of subordination of individual to the state, which may also described as the totalitarian, authoritarian, so is certainly endorsed by the Aristotle. So he thinks Aristotle thinks that the people want to be happy, and their happiness is required to be maximum, according to Aristotle. So this is possible only if the state takes initiative to make legislation and controlling the entire educational system. So that is the state control the education, and state sponsored laws are the only weapons of attaining the happiness, maximum happiness for the individual, for the people. So the state is the only authority of the all the enterprises and the individual. So individual has no choice. So there is no alternative but subordination. So his concept of organic theory of state is also powerful in of totalitarianism. So in an animal body, the part has no importance away from the whole. So although this is true, at the same cannot hold a good for the relationship between the individual and the state. So the state is essentially for the individual, no doubt. Yes, no doubt. So but it cannot claim to embrace all the aspect of his life. Only in totalitarianism, the state is for the individual and not vice versa. So the state can fulfill a part of human demands, but not all the demands. So for complete satisfaction and happiness, the individual seeks the membership of different organizations. So Aristotle state cannot tolerate this. So it is the absolute unintelligible how political association can make its inhabitants moral, ethical, and ideal single-handed. So it is the both physically impossible and the morally unjustifiable. So no person or no organization can take the absolute guardianship over the individuals, any individual. So Aristotle state is a community and not an association. So because men value it for its own sake and not just as a means to the fulfillment of separate individual ends. So if this is the nature of Aristotle polis, the individual finds no honorable position in the state. So is the simply a mission to help the state. So again, individual cannot claim any special treatment, right? So all great, all treated in the, identically. Totalitarianism does not recognize differences. So individual is rational if he unconditional surrender to the state. So defense is a tenement is irrational. So therefore, we observe that the theory is the totalitarianism. So in the functions of the state, so Aristotle has not elaborated analyzed the different functions of the state. So the reasons is unknown to us. I mean, there is no recorded reasons. So he has not viewed the state from any ordinary point of view. The state is not a simply pact of mutual protection or agreement to exchange goods and services. So if certain people assemble together and enter into pact to materialize commercial interest and mutual protections for the purpose of forming an association, so that can be called a state. So in ancient Greek, there were many such associations. So but they were not worthy of being called as a state. So the state is a more than contractual society. So it is a function not to help members to gain few commercial or economic benefits. So its purpose is to attain virtue. So it falls in the sphere of, it will be an alliance. So the state is intended to enable all. So in their households and their kinship to ally well. So meaning by the full satisfying life. So the citizen and inhabitants will not have satisfying life. So if they have not established any relationship among themselves through the marriage and brotherhoods, so mere formation of association does not make any state. So in the WhatsApp, according to the Aristotle, the political association which call a state existing can simply for the purpose of living together. So but for the sake of noble actions, those who do not noble deeds are therefore contributing to the quality of the political association. So what Aristotle wants to say is that the objective of the state is to make the life of the individual noble and happy only. So this is the most important function according to him. So even though it is not recorded, so but is the state must be also look after the security and the general welfare of its citizens and its people. So of course it comes under the secondary function. So even though it is important, so is theory of the function of the state is quite different from the Locke and other thinkers. So the purpose of the Locke contract is establish civil society according to the law. Primary function of the civil society is the preservation of rights of its of the states, members of the state. So against the infringement of the by others. So every individual has a right to his life, liberty, and property, which he could not exercise and enjoy in the state of nature. So the state will ensure rights through the use of force. Any violation of rights and misappropriation of property shall be prevented by the state alone only. So in the Locke's view, the state is a manifestation of the combined strength and force. So it is the legal right of the individual to claim their rights. So liberty and property are to be the protected. So at the same time, it is the legal as well as the moral duty of the state to fulfill this demand. So, but nowhere has lack written, ennoblement of citizens' life. So here lies a fundamental difference between the Locke and Aristotle. So a real state is concerned with the both outward and the inward actions of man. So in the state makes itself busy. Busy only within the outward actions. It will do only half of its functions. So Aristotle has emphasized upon the education. So education is the most powerful weapon of making men good or of training them to the virtue. So education can be impacted by the institutions set up by the state. So on this point, Aristotle follows the Plato's virtue strictly. So this objective of institution should be trained to the trained to main goodness, not only the intellectual, so but to moral and physical excellence also. So the state should be the state should be the school of citizens. The state is in Aristotle's theory is there. So reformatory. So why the state is interested with this state? He has not vividly discussed it. So our opinions is since the state is the supreme organization, so it is entitled to look after interest of all men in a balanced way. So which no other association or institution can do. So the outlook of the church or any other religious institution is highly biased. So this is the organization or institution cannot maintain the discipline in education. So this is about the Aristotle. So there are certain criticisms also, certain criticisms also there on the Aristotle theory of the states. So we look on within the 2 minutes. So Aristotle theory of state has been variously criticized, right? So the criticism against his theory of state is totalitarian character. So his concept of state is all embracing. So the individual in his state has no separate status. So they are completely merged with the state. So its organic nature reveals that the totalitarian feature. So if the individual are separated from the state, they will lose their importance as the separate part of our human or animal body, lose their activity. So critics views that this is the contention of Aristotle about the relationship between the state and the individual is unacceptable. So, and the other one is the Aristotle theory of state is a association or communities have no separate importance or position. So that the state embrace all other communities. So they owe their existence to the state. So it means that the all communities are measured in the body of the state. So it implies that the police has absolute control over the all communities. So he observed all forms of community are like parts of political community. So it is quite obvious that the both individual and the community are integral part of the police. So this new state is an anti-democratic. So we do not regard individual or associations as mere appendix part of the state. Right. In modern times, the community plays the important part in the field of developing the personality of the individuals. So the other one is it is not true that the state or police is the greatest manifestation of supreme good. It aims at some good, no doubt, but so but not supreme good. So by supreme good, it means complete human good. So good is good life of all members of the police and distinct from the lesser goods. Partial welfare of the individual. So in a real life, the state is of no capacity can mold or determine the character of individual. So it is in an absolute way. So the state has a role, but it is shares with the numerous other communities also in real life by denying giving importance to the community has done the injustice to it. So when Aristotle says that the police is the manifestation of the supreme good, so he wants to assert that it is the institutions of supreme authority. So the state is a practical life. So he's never holder of any hold of any superior authority, supreme authority. So although Aristotle does not talk about the sovereignty in absolute sense, so in his analysis indicates that he had developed the fascination about the absolute nature of sovereignty. So the absolutist characteristic of state is always, I mean, inimical to the balanced development of human personality. So, in spite of these criticisms about the need to be said, I mean, in support to his concept. So, according to the Aristotle, state is not the product of contract. So, it is a natural one, according to Aristotle. Though this does not mean that man has no role behind the creation of the state. So, the evolution of man consciousness and intelligence has helped the, I mean, creation of the state, helped to the creation of the state. So, it does not. It has so it has not been made by the certain individual. So all on a sudden, so efforts of centuries lie behind the certain of state. So this is the evolutionary theory of state. It also called the scientific theory. So family, community, and state all are perfectly natural. So we all are agree with this. I mean, continuation of Aristotle. So even modern thinkers of opinion that that the state is the final form of political organization, right? 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. So this is about the Aristotle theory of the state. So finally, I mean, at the end of the, is according to him, the state is the. I mean, it's a natural thing. No one created the state. So the next important area is, I mean, subchapter is the classification of government or classification of constitution. Also, we can say. So Aristotle was, I mean, very concerned about the, I mean, prevailing about the instability of the government in the contemporary Greek city-state. So he sought to develop a model of constitution or model of government. So that would be ensure the political stability. So Aristotle sent his disciples to various places for the purpose of preparing is the case histories of the for the constitutions. So in this process, 158 case histories of various city-states were prepared, which were examined by Aristotle himself. So on the basis of produced his famous classification of governments or classification of constitution also. So Aristotle classification and government, government and constitution or constitution based on the two factors. So one is the quantitative and the second one is the qualitative. So what is the quantitative? Quantitative is the number of persons who exercise the supreme power. So whether state is ruled by one or the few or the many persons. So and the second one is the qualitative. So the ends they seek to serve the self-interest or the benefit of the community. So whether the ruler is devoted to the interest of the state or to the self-interested. So if it's, I mean, if it is a devoted interest to, interested to the state, it will be a normal form of the constitution or normal form of the government. So if it belongs to the self-interested, it is the pivoted form or deviant form of the government or constitution. So, there is the normal. There are two forms. One is normal form. Where the ruler is devoted to the interest of the state. If the ruler is work for the interest of the state, it is the normal form. Then the pivoted form is the interested or ruler. Work for the only self-interest or for self-gain. It is a pivoted form. So So first we'll study. There are my normal thing is the monarchy. So monarchy, aristocracy, polity. So these three are the normal form. So we'll discuss one by one. So monarchy, a government by a king who rules for the good for the whole community. So tyranny is the pivotal form of the monarchy. So which is the one ruler uses supreme authority, supreme power for his selfish benefit, for his own benefit, for his own gain. So this is the monarchy. Monarchy, if in the monarchy ruler work for his own interest, it will falls under the pivotal form of tyranny. The second one is the aristocracy. So the ruler of the few. In this form, the ruler of few. There will be a few rulers who exercise the supreme authority. So for they will exercise the power for the well-being of the people, for the well-being of the state. So this perverted form is the holy oligarchy, the selfish government of few rich men. So if the few rich rulers will work for their own interest, for their own own gains, it will falls under the pivotal form. It is the oligarchy. So the third form is the polity. So a good form of the ruler of the many for the good for all. So pivot form is the democracy. So the ruler, the rule of the poor who are many but lawless. So just an oligarchy is the rule of the few is rich who are the selfish. So Aristotle, observes that none of these forms of government was stable without proper checks on the power of the ruler. So monarchy was good under the normal conditions. So, but in the absence of any effective control over the absolute power of monarchy, it degenerated into tyranny. So, because power and victory cannot exist, so tyranny or dictatorship are followed by rebellion, by choosing of few who overthrew and it set up aristocracy in its place. So, in the absence of any effective curbs on their power, aristocracy degenerated into the oligarchy. So, in due course, the many rose against it and replaced it by the polity. So, this gained degenerated into the democracy, which was eventually overthrown by a single virtue man who set up a monarchy in its place. So, these are known as the cycle of changes of the government. So there are some criticisms are there in the Aristotle classification of the government. So some people are saying the Aristotle classification is the unscientific and the quantitative. So it is argued that Aristotle classification is not based on any scientific principle. So as it lays an emphasis on quantitative rather than the qualitative aspect. So Aristotle does not distinguish between the state and the government. So criticizing of Aristotle classification, when Garner says that Aristotle does not distinguish between the state and the government. So with the results, that is the classification in the classification of state, while it ought to be of the government. So, and second, another one is the Aristotle's classification does not cover all the modern form of the government. So, according to the Seeley and the Leacock, Aristotle could not conceive the modern country states. So, his classification of all small city states and not be big states. So, if his classification is accepted, we shall have to place absolute monarchy, constitutional, elected, and hereditary monarchy in one another the same category. So this will be bring the similarity between the monarchy as it prevails in the Saudi Arabia and the Great Britain, while the both are not in the same. So besides, modern forms of governments are parliamentary, presidential, unitary, and federal types. So Aristotle classification does not include and explain these forms of government. So, according and the democracy is not the worst form of the government. So, according to Aristotle, government, democracy is the worst form of government, and he has used it in the sense of rule of crowd. So, this is the type of condition prevailing in the Greek in Aristotle's time. So, but this is not the condition in the modern times. In modern times, the term democracy used in the good sense. So, and it is considered to be as the best form of government in modern times. and the other one is Aristotle's cycle of change does not fit in the development of modern states. So the cycle of political change given by Aristotle is the applicable only, only to the ancient Greek and Rome. So not to the all modern states. So there is no any place for the mixed form of government in Aristotle's classification. So modern governments are mixed governments in nowadays. So for example, Great Britain is a monarchy, and the government is that country is a unitary and parliamentary. So there is a parliamentary and democratic government in India with the mix of unitary and federal forms. And the USA democratic and the government is that a country is the presidential and federal. So this is the forms of government have no place in the Aristotle's classification. And the other criticism is that Aristotle classification is not accept, actually applicable to the theocracy. So according to the blunt Shelley, Aristotle classification is not applicable to theocracy because in this type of government, the supreme power is attributed to the God or some other superhuman being. So the men who exercise authority are deputies of God on this earth. So Aristotle classification is also criticized for differentiation between the aristocracy, oligarchy. So while modern political thinkers do not attach any importance to this difference, so it is not possible to say where aristocracy ends and polity begins, right? It is not possible to say. So despite so many criticism, so one must admit that Aristotle theory of classification, cycle change, etc., possession undeniable importance in the political philosophy. So Aristotle's work proved that to be the cornerstone of coming philosophers and their theories. So he gave the base of the I mean discipline which world is still trying to improve in modern times also. So this is about the Aristotle theory of the state and the classification of government. So this is about the today class. So if you have any doubt, please ask. So if you have any doubt, you can ask here. So if you don't have any doubt, we'll conclude our class here. We'll discuss tomorrow another topic. So Aristotle is from the first unit. So if you have any doubt, please ask. So if you are not able to talk, you can text here in chat box. So for material, you have to contact your registration center. Where you are registered, please go there, ask if you are not taken materials. You have to collect materials from your center. Missed, is there any option to listen the missed classes? Yes, missed classes are available in the YouTube. These the sessions are the recorded sessions. You can listen these classes in multiple times in YouTube. You can find in YouTube. In BRU channel. Okay, any doubts? So can I conclude here? Please anyone respond? No any doubts, we'll conclude here. Okay, important questions will be given in the next class. I will provide in the next class important questions. So for materials, please contact your center. Register where you register. Please contact the center. Okay then. And okay, if you don't have any doubts, we will conclude here. Okay, thank you.